All right, welcome back to the 4 Ounce Fanatic channel, guys. We've got a fight night this weekend. Yeah, definitely one of the lesser cards this year in terms of name value and interesting fights. I think this is just a bit of an overfill fight night card, but nonetheless, we've got a few interesting fights on this card. And without further ado, let's go into my predictions and breakdown. First fight of the night, we got Talita Alencar versus Ariane Carnelosi, I believe. Um, I haven't seen too much of either of these girls, but I do know that Ellen Carr, she's quite inexperienced. She's coming off the Contender Series. She's quite small for 115. I believe she's like 4'11" or 5 foot tall. Um, yeah, not too much to say about this fight. I think Carnelosi won her last fight by disqualification. She hasn't been the most active fighter. But I am going to pick Canalosi by decision. I think she's just more experienced and more physical, and I do think she is a better grappler, which I think will play a factor in this fight. So yeah, I'm going to pick Ariane Canalosi by decision. Moving on to the second fight of the night, Phil Rowe versus Seok Hyun Ko from the Squid Game. We've got Phil Rowe. I do think he is capable of beating guys outside the top 20. Obviously, we've seen him win against Ange Losa, guys like that, but he's losing to Jake Matthews, Neil Magny, guys who, have or I think will be in the top 15 of the welterweight division. He's a tall, rangy striker. I do think Ko will be able to take him down fairly easily, chop that tree. Obviously, he's got great top control. We saw that in his debut over Owen Elliott, who himself was a really good prospect coming into that fight. And Ko kind of just dominated him, which I don't think a lot of people were expecting. Especially seeing as if you're looking at his record, I do think he has quite a few KOs, and I think he's more of a boxer, or he likes to box more. Obviously, his nickname is the Korean Tyson, so that just shows something else in itself. Yeah, and Seok Ko, like I said, he had an impressive debut over Oban Elliott. He had good top control, good ground, excuse me, good ground and pound. I believe he might have a judo base. I think he got a few judo throws in that fight, or some good trips, some good takedowns. Um, he's got 6 KOs in his record. So, like I said, seems to like to box a bit more than grappling. But I think he just had good fight IQ in that Oban Elliott fight, and he knew that he had to push the pace and get aggressive. But yeah, I am going to be picking Seok Ko by probably a 29-28 decision. I don't think Phil Rowe is going to get dominated. Despite his record not being that great, I think he's like 12-5 or something. And he's a lot taller. He will need to use his range, but yeah, I think Seok Ko is he's a bit more talented. His grappling is better. Obviously, Phil Rowe. Before his last fight, he was on a 2-fight losing streak. Not that that means anything, but I don't know. I just think that when he's facing guys who are, strong grapplers, experienced guys, I think he struggles a little bit. And I do think Seok Ko has the potential to go quite far in the 170-pound division. I'm not going to say he will be ranked, but yeah, I think he is quite a good fighter, and he showed that in his last fight against Elliott. So yeah, I'm going to pick Seok Ko to win by 29-28 decision. I think it might be a bit boring. I do think if Ko's smart enough, he's going to have a similar game plan to what he did in the Elliott fight. He's going to take him down, look for ground and pound, use his top control. He seems to be quite heavy on the top. Yeah, Seok Ko 29-28 decision is my pick for fight number 2. Fight number 3 of the night, we got an absolute banger, ladies and gentlemen. Alice Ardelean versus Montserrat Ruiz, looking like Dora the Explorer out here. Yeah, Alice Ardelean, not really much to say about her. I mean, she's tough. She's got a shocking record. I think her record's like 9-7 or something. She's 1-2 in the UFC, so she actually has managed to get a win in the UFC. Unlike Montserrat Ruiz, she is on a 3-fight losing streak, and all of those fights have been by TKO. She's another really small strawweight, which I think she's struggled with. I do think if there was an atomweight division in the UFC, she'd do quite well, but obviously there isn't. Yeah, I think she's 5 foot. She struggles with the physicality of these girls at strawweight, which is crazy to think about. Yeah, I think she got knocked out by Amanda Lemos and Eduardo Mora and someone else. And she is quite inactive too. This is her first fight in the last 2 years. I do think she's going to have a speed advantage in this fight. Um, but I don't think she has the physicality to be able to put away Adeline. I mean, I don't think Adeline has been finished in the UFC. I think both of her losses have been by decision, but she's just really not fucking good at all. All respect to her. I think Ruiz, despite being on a 3-fight losing streak, all by a KO, like they were mostly two pretty good fighters. Obviously Amanda Lemos and Eduardo Mora. I forgot who the other one was, but yeah, I just think Montserrat Ruiz is going to get the job done here by probably a 29-28 decision. I do think she maybe has the ability to take down Adelaide, kind of just lay and pray, land a few strikes in the ground, use her boxing, use her toughness, and yeah, I think Montserrat Ruiz is going to win probably by 30-27 decision. Adeline is probably going to be cut after this fight if she loses. Moving on to the next fight of the night, it's kind of interesting that this fight is on the prelims, seeing as it's a top five, a top five matchup in any division. Well, it just shows the state of the bantamweight division, really, that this fight is like the fourth fight of the night. But we've got Ketlen Vieira versus Norma Dumont. Ketlen Vieira, she's a veteran in the UFC. She's been in the organization for about 9 years now. She is a good grappler, but she is a decision merchant. Yeah, not much else to report. I believe, she did have a close fight with Kayla Harrison, which is something to point out. She's tough. She's a veteran. She's just standard women's bantamweight, gatekeeper, top five, gatekeeper, jobber, whatever you want to call it. And she's going up against Norma Dumont, who I think is the ultimate decision merchant. I mean, she's got 8 wins in the UFC, 0 finishes. And then she's out here talking about, why am I not getting a title shot? Like, bro, you're a bantamweight. You're a big female. You need to be finishing these girls. I mean, I know there was that moment where she has rocked a few girls. There was obviously that funny moment where she rocked Chelsea Chandler and sent her running. Like, she literally turned around and ran away. So she does have decent power in their hands, but she's not finishing anyone. She's got 8 wins in the UFC, 0 finishes, and she's like, I just think people are overlooking this fight. I do think a lot of people will be picking Dumont. I don't know. Maybe it's just because she's younger. She's on a win streak, but she's getting KO'd by Megan Anderson. Like, I'm sorry, she's getting KO'd by Megan Anderson. She's lost to Macy Chiasson, who really isn't that great either, and misses weight all the time. Like, I just think people are overrating this. So I am going to be picking. I originally was going to pick Dumont by TKO, but then I thought, what the fuck am I thinking, dude? What am I thinking? She has not finished a single fight in the UFC. And despite the fact that Vieira, she's been KO'd before, she's quite old. I think she's like 37. I just don't see how Dumont is able to win if she doesn't finish her. And I think Vieira's grappling is a lot better. So I think it's going to be another boring fight. I mean, this card is going to be full of, I think, decisions and, 29-28. So yeah, that will be my pick. I am going to pick Ketlen Vieira by 29-28 decision. I think she's going to use her clinch up against the fence, stall the fight, get takedowns, and win a boring fight, and probably never get a title shot ever because of the way that she fights. And yeah, but I wouldn't be surprised if Norma Dumont does find a way to win this fight with her striking and things like that. But yeah, in other cases, I do have Ketlen Vieira winning by 29-28 decision. Moving on to the next fight of the night, we've got Dante Lockjaw Johnson versus Boot Gang himself, Cedric and Dumas. Dante Johnson, obviously, he's coming off the Contender Series. He fought at heavyweight in the Contender Series. Obviously, it was late notice, and now he's gone down to middleweight. I just wanted to point that out. I think he might have been the world's smallest heavyweight ever. I think he weighed in at 209 pounds, and he's 5'8". So even for middleweight, I think he's quite small. Obviously, he's a bulky guy. He's quite stocky, but he's 5'8", and he's got fast hands. He's 6-0. He's undefeated, and he's going up against Cedric Dumas. I mean, it's a miracle this guy's been able to get a fight. On my notes, I put down the word criminal, which I think just says it all. I mean, take a look at this kid. Listen, kid. Look at this guy. Yeah. What the fuck? So it says here that Dante Johnson's 6 foot, but I'm pretty fucking sure in the contender series, it said he was 5'8", so I don't know what's going on there. I guess we'll find out come fight night. But I do know that he definitely is a lot shorter than Dumas. I don't think there's no way this guy is 6 foot. Like, there's no way. Either way, Cedrico Dumas, yeah, he's got a 7-inch height advantage according to the contender series stats. I mean, it says here that Johnson's 6 foot, but there's no way. He's 3-3 in the UFC, so I think people are making out for him as this terrible fighter, but he's really not that bad. I mean, obviously he's lost to Mikhail Jacek and a few other guys, but most of the guys he's losing to are pretty good middleweights, and he's able to beat Cans like Cody Brundage and can't even remember the other guy, Dennis Talulin. Like, come on, yeah. He does have a good guillotine though. He's a decent striker, lanky guy, like I said. And I think this may surprise a lot of people, but I am gonna. I don't know, man. I'm thinking about. I'm fencing this one. I'm thinking about picking Dumas by round 2 submission. He does have a good gilly, and Johnson is quite experienced, especially when you're undefeated and you're fighting a guy that you expect to destroy. If the fight doesn't go your way, I think that can affect you a lot. So here's what I'm going to say. If Johnson doesn't win by round 1 KO, I do think Dumas is going to win by submission or decision. Man, this is tough. I'm fencing. I can't fence it. You know what? Fuck it. I'm picking the underdog. I'm picking Dumas by round 2 guillotine choke. Could be so wrong about this. Johnson may just KO him in round 1. We'll see how good this guy is. I mean, obviously this is the first fight at middleweight in the UFC. I'm not sure if he fought at light heavyweight or middleweight on the regional scene, but yeah. Either way, Cedrico Dumas round 2 guillotine. That is my pick. Next fight of the night, we've got Timothy Kwamba versus Chang Ho Lee. We've got Timmy Kwamba. He's coming off his first win in the UFC. He had an impressive flying knee KO over Roberto Romero. He's a decent kickboxer. He's coming off the contender series. There's a lot of guys coming off the contender series in this card. I think this is just, a mixture of inactive fighters and contender series, prospects. But anyway, Timmy Kwamba, he's a decent kickboxer. He does struggle against stronger grapplers. He lost to Balaji Oki and Lucas Almeida, who are both kind of grappler types. And he's going up against Chang Ho Lee, who's 2-0 in the UFC. He's got good ground and pound. He did show that in his last fight when he beat the fuck out of Cortavius Romeus. But Kwamba's fairly tough. I don't think he's going to get finished. I could see a round 3 TKO for Chang Ho Lee, but I think he's going to use his grappling. Maybe get a submission, but I'm going to be picking Chang Ho Lee by 30-27 decision. Next fight of the night, we've got Billy Alicana versus Kevin Christian, another contender series guy. Billy Alicana, he's a decent grappler, quite awkward on the feet. He had quite a weird fight in his debut earlier this year against Bogdan Guskov. I mean, he took the back of Guskov and looked really strong on the first round. And then in the second round, he kind of, I don't know what happened. He kind of just gave up and just didn't want to strike with him. Maybe it was just the power, or maybe he got injured. I don't know what happened. And he ended up getting submitted, it was kind of just like a mercy tap. Like Bogdan Guskov just, little broing him, standing up, kind of just punching him while he was just balled up against the cage. But he showed a lot of improvement. I think maybe it was the fact that it was on short notice, which I believe it was. But I think Alicana did show a lot of improvement in his last fight against Ivo Aslan, who, was a pretty good guy going into that fight. I think he only had one loss, maybe two. One loss in the UFC against Iwan Kutalaba. But before that, he was quite a good prospect in the UFC. He was KOing quite a few guys. He had, good look to him. He was a young guy. But yeah, he did show a lot of improvement in his last fight. And he's going up against Kevin Christian. This is his UFC debut. He had a win on the Contender Series last year. And he is 6'7". He's a 6'7" light heavyweight, which I believe is a record. And he's got an 80-inch reach. Like, this dude is freaking massive. I think Johnny Walker is like I don't even think Johnny Walker's that tall. I think Johnny Walker's like 6'6". So this is the tallest light heavyweight in UFC history, I believe. Yeah, he's pretty well rounded. He's a finisher. None of his fights have gone to decision. He's got 4 KOs and 5 submissions. So yeah, fairly well rounded. He is a bit inactive. I don't know, maybe he got injured after his Contender Series fight. So I do think that could play a factor in the term. I do believe in ring rust. And this is Alicana's third fight of the year. Yeah, it's his third fight of the year. So he's a bit more active. I do think Alicana can probably only win by finish, as Christian's 2 losses are by finish. So yeah, I am going to be picking Kevin Christian by round 2 TKO. I think Alicana's going to have a decent first round. Obviously, we saw that in the Goose Gold fight, but then he kind of faded. I'm not sure if that's his thing. We'll have to find out. But I do think Christian is a bit too physical, a bit too big. He's a finisher, and I think he'll get the job done by round 2 TKO. Main card, we've got Alan Nascimento versus Cody Durden. So this is a catchweight bout. Okay. Nascimento misses weight again. I mean, this guy's a freaking massive flyweight. He's 5'8". Missing weight. I believe he missed weight in his last fight. I'm not sure because it was quite a while ago. But yeah, Alan Nascimento. He's on a 3-fight win streak, although he has been quite inactive. He's got good BJJ. Yeah, he fights once a year or less. As I was saying, inactivity can play a factor in this fight, and he's going up against Cody Durden, who is, a lot more active. However, he is 1-4 in his last 5 fights, and most of them were all by finish, aside from Joshua Van. But all of the guys that he's losing to are top 15 guys, and despite Nascimento being quite talented, he hasn't really had a good win, over, his resume doesn't show that he's beaten guys that are top 15 or will be top 15. I mean, he got submitted by Tagir Ulanbekov, I believe, earlier in his UFC career. So yeah, that's one thing to point out. I'm tough on this one. Like, Nascimento has missed weight, so I do think he's going to be a lot more big and physical on the ground. I'm leaning towards Cody Durden by unanimous decision, but just kind of based on the fact, and looking at the stats of people who miss weight, they usually win. And Cody Durden is a bit chinny. I don't see him getting knocked out, but maybe he might get dropped, and then Alan Nascimento kind of controls him on the ground. Yeah, fuck it. I'm going to pick Nascimento by decision. I was originally going to pick Durden by unanimous decision, but I don't know. He's just taken a lot of damage recently. He will be hungry though, but yeah, I'm just going to pick Alan Nascimento by unanimous decision. Next fight of the night, we've got Charles Radke versus Daniel Frunze. Yeah, Charles Radke loves a good can crush. He's beaten guys in the 170-pound division who, are pretty much cans. I mean, he beat Blood Diamond. Who else did he beat? He finished Matthew Simmelsberger, but then he's getting destroyed by guys in the top 15 like Mike Malott, Carlos Prates. Who else did he lose to? Excuse me, who else did he beat? Hector Urbina. Like who the fuck is that guy? Yeah, no. Yeah, he is also coming off a KO loss to Malott, as I mentioned. He's an aggressive, powerful boxer. He's going up against Daniel Frunze. He's coming off Contender Series. He had a nice comeback win there. He showed his toughness against a guy that a lot of people thought he was going to lose to. Yeah, and that's pretty much all I'm going to say about Daniel Frunze. I mean, his last fight and his debut, he got absolutely smoked by Reese McKee. I think he got dropped like 4 times, and then he had this horrific cut on his lip. I mean, it's Halloween, so that cut was quite horrific. It's quite fitting for today, at least. But yeah, he's tough. That's all I'm going to say about Frunze, and I am picking Radke by round 1 KO. Yeah, nothing else to really say about this. Frunze is just not UFC level. Like, I mean, if you're getting smoked by Reese McKee, Yeah, I just don't think that you are going to be in the UFC for very long. And Radke, despite his record showing that he's 10-5, it doesn't really reflect his skills. I don't think. I mean, he's only really lost to top 15 guys, um, and yeah, I just think that Daniel Friend is going to get knocked out. So yeah, Charles Radke will be winning by round 1 KO. That is my lock of the night. I think um, I'm probably gonna. Daniel Franz is probably gonna fucking win by like round 3 Sulu stretch or some bullshit. But anyway, moving on to the next fight, we've got Isaac Dalgarian versus Yadier Dalvai. Um, yeah, Isaac Dalgarian. He's a good wrestler. He's got good ground and pound. He should be 3-0 in the UFC. He should be 8-0. But he lost kind of not a brutal robbery, but a pretty bad decision to Christian Rodriguez, where he kind of just held him on the ground most of the fight and somehow managed to lose by split decision. And yeah, that's pretty much all I'm going to say about Dalgarian. He's not the most experienced guy, but he's a good wrestler. He's going up against Yadier Dalvai, coming out of Cuba, and he's undefeated. He is 9-0. This is his second fight in the UFC. Another contender series prospect on this card. He's pretty well rounded. I think he's more of a jiu-jitsu guy, which is interesting, seeing he's from Cuba. Those guys, boxers and wrestlers usually. But yeah, speaking of boxing, he is quite clean on the feet too. He's coming off that round 1 rear naked choke over Conor Matthews, just kind of a can at featherweight. But it was a good win to start off your UFC career. Yeah, I think this will be an interesting fight. I would like to see how the grappling plays out. I think there'll be quite a few scrambles here. Dalvai is undefeated. He's young. But I am going to actually pick Dalgarian by decision here. I think he's a strong wrestler. Dalvai, he's talented. He's undefeated. But the same thing with Dante Johnson. It's like if the fight doesn't, when you're undefeated and you expect, you're running through everyone, you expect to destroy all your opponents, and the fight doesn't play out the way that you expected, I think you're going to have a lot of trouble. And I think this is what's going to happen in this fight. Maybe Dalvai gets a submission, but I think the more likely thing is Dalgarian's going to use his wrestling, kind of just hold Dalvai on the bottom. He's going to get frustrated, and yeah, I think Dalgarian's going to win a boring, probably 30-27 decision. Featured fight of the night, we've got Jeremiah Wells versus Timber Gorimbo. Now, Jeremiah Wells, there's a lot of factors you got to count in this fight. I mean, a lot of people think Gorimbo's not that good, but Jeremiah Wells is, he's 39 years old. He hasn't fought in 2 years. I mean, he's on a 2-fight losing streak. He's a strong wrestler. He's got a good submission game, I guess. Good front headlock, good rear naked choke. But Timur Gorimbo, he's a lot more well-rounded. He was on a great win streak before he got submitted by Vicente Luque. I do think that, seeing as most of his losses, I think he's 12-5. Is that his record? 14-5. I believe 3 or 4 of his losses are by submission, so that could play a factor. Wells is obviously able to get a good takedown, especially on the taller guy in Gorimbo. Good takedowns. He's a strong guy. I'm beating the dead horse here. But yeah, Gorimbo, I think, is just a bit more skilled. He could get submitted. Could see that happening, but I think Gorimbo's just going to play it safe here, look for takedowns before Wells gets there, because Wells, I don't think he has anything off his back. So if Gorimbo gets him to the ground, I think he's going to be able to cruise to a 30-27 decision and get back on track. Now we got the co-main event of the evening. This is an interesting one. We've got Waldo Cortez Acosta versus Ante De Lija. Now in my last video, I actually booked Ante De Lija against... who did I book him against? Almeida? Because I had no... This just shows, like, these Apex cards have no fucking hype around them. Like, I had no idea that this guy was fighting Waldo the next week. So, yeah. I put a correction in that video, but for Almeida, I do think he should fight Pavlovich, since obviously De Lija is not going to be fighting him anytime soon. But yeah, this is a co-main. It's an interesting fight. Waldo Cortez Acosta, he is 14-2. I mean, he likes to box, he likes to emote. That's his thing. He just likes to play around in the octagon. Um, yeah, that's what he does. He boxes and emotes his way to 29, 28 decisions. Um, he's had a lot of close fights in the UFC. He's coming off that loss to Sergey Pavlovich, though, um, which he did well, but I just think that his style isn't really going to hold up with the top 10 in this division. I mean, he won kind of like a very close. I could see how you could say it was a robbery. I think it might have been a robbery. I've got to rewatch it, but that fight against Spivak, I mean, if you, it's not really the fact that it was a robbery. It's more like if you're having a close fight, the guy like Sergey Spivak, who's just, I don't know how the fuck this guy's still in the top 10. I don't think you're going to be able to do very well against Ante Deliha. I mean, Ante Deliha's a veteran. He's had 32 fights. Obviously, he's coming off that amazing knockout debut win over Marcin Tybura. Marcin, he's a great guy. Marcin Tybura. I'd love to fight him next. He trains with Espinal. Speaking of the man himself. So, he's got a good team around him. I think Walking Trouble was a perfect nickname for this guy. I mean, when he's walking towards you, it's trouble. He's got dynamite in those hands. He does have a lot of KOs. He just kind of reminds me of just a more technical Tom. He'll just storm you with punches and get the win, but he can grapple if he needs to. I'm going to be picking Ante Deliha by round 2 KO. I mean, I know MMA math doesn't work, but Waldo, this guy's barely beaten Sergey Spivak, who's a mid-level guy, and again, I know MMA math doesn't work, but I think Deliha's too powerful and too experienced, and he smoked Marcin Tybura at like 2 minutes, which I think does say a lot. So I'm going to be picking Ante Deliha by round 2 KO, maybe round 1 KO. But I think Cortez Acosta is pretty tough. I mean, he's never been finished. Both of his losses are by decision against two powerful guys in Marcos Rogerio de Lima and Sergey Pavlovich. I think de Lima has quite similar style to Pavlovich. He's got powerful punches. Not the biggest heavyweight either. He's like 240, which is interesting. But I do think that De Lima is going to get the job done. I think it's going to be quite a slow start to the first round. I think Cortez Acosta is kind of just going to, use his footwork, kind of get out of the way of a lot of strikes of De Lima. Might get a bit gassed, but then I think early round 2, De Lima's going to crack him with a big punch. Maybe a standing TKO against the fence. I mean, I think Cortez Acosta is good enough to not get slept out cold, but you never know. But either way, De Lima will be winning by round 2 TKO/KO. And now we go to the main event of the evening. We got Steve Garcia versus David Obama himself. Steve Garcia, this guy's on a 6-fight win streak. The first 5 of those were all KOs, I believe. And then he recently got a decision win over Calvin Kattar where I think he could have finished the fight, but we all know Kattar, he's a tough guy. He doesn't go away easily. But yeah, Garcia, he's running a lot of momentum going into this fight. One thing I want to note is he kind of reminds me of like an old school, kind of like early 2000s fighter. I mean, he likes to stand and bang, but he does seem to have a good grappling base. I mean, obviously he's Jackson Wink trained. A lot of like 2000s fighters, Keith Jardine, of course, John Jones, people like that were training at Jackson Wink. So he definitely reflects the Jackson Wink style. Just likes to get scrappy in the pocket, likes to stand and bang. He's an entertaining guy. But when he gets hurt, I think he does have the ability to take it to the ground. Similar to David Onama. I mean, I think he's a bit more well-rounded. Obviously, we saw that in his last fight when he beat Giga Chikadze, excuse me. Giga Chikadze. He kind of just took him down, had some good ground and pound. And I think he's got an arm triangle choke in one of his wins in the UFC. But he likes to stand and bang the same as Steve Garcia. And that is why this is my 4-ounce my 4-ounce fight of the night pick. I think this is going to be the fight of the night. Both guys are going to be swinging leather until someone goes down. There's no way this fight goes 5 rounds. I mean, I probably curse it now. It's probably going to be like a fucking boring ass 48-47 decision. Um, yeah, someone's getting finished, man, and I think it will be David Onama. I mean, he does tend to get hurt in a lot of his fights. Obviously, he lost to Nate Landwehr. He got hurt quite badly in the Gabriel Benitez fight and the Gabriel Santos fight, I believe. He's a bit of a weird striker. Like his punches are effective, but I don't know. They just kind of come at weird angles. And his defense isn't the best. And I think Garcia is going to expose that and get another KO win to his resume. I mean, the guy is 18-5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, he's 18-5 and he's got 14 KOs. I mean, Onama's got good KO power too, but I just think that Garcia is going to be able to overwhelm him in this fight and win by round 2 KO. So yeah, without anything else to say, that is my picks for UFC Fight Night. Steve Garcia versus David Onama. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment. Please like. Please subscribe. And I will see you next week.